When is the best time to get your estate plan in place? Well, I'm an estate planning lawyer, and I'm going to tell you the answer is now. But you might say, why is that? Let me explain. When you're thinking, when it crosses your mind that, hey, I should have an estate plan in place, I think that that's a really important indication that you have this on your mind and that it's going to weigh on you until you get something done. And like a lot of things, you can procrastinate on your estate plan until you can't. What does that mean? Well, usually when folks get older, they know that mortality is something that's real and they will start thinking about their estate plan. Not so common for folks who are younger, who aren't even thinking that for very good reasons. When people are young, they're not looking at any sort of impending death. But accidents happen, all sorts of, and I know you know of people who have had events or strokes or accidents in their 20s or died in their 30s, and it is terribly sad, but we all know about those situations. So if you are single and you have no family, you're probably not so worried about it. But what if you have kids? What if you have that brand new baby? Absolutely, even if you are in your 20s, you need an estate plan because you want to make sure, especially if you and your spouse die at the same time, leaving that child as an orphan, your wills need to provide for that child in terms of not just monetary provision, but who will be the guardian. And so it's kind of hard for people who are that young to be thinking about an estate plan, but once they have a child, then it sort of shifts priorities. And so, people who are in their 20s and 30s definitely should be looking at an estate plan. When you say when should you have an estate plan, it really depends on where you are at in your life. If you are an adult, you've turned 18, you're not thinking about this. Well, your parents are for you because they know you're going off to college and you need to have durable powers of attorney for health care so that if you are in an accident, they have the immediate ability to make decisions for you. Same for finances. When people are facing retirement, they definitely need to update their estate plan. When people are at another stage of their life, when perhaps they're looking at disability, perhaps they are in their 70s and long-term care looks to be more of a likelihood than a possibility, they need to update their estate plan. So throughout life, there's many phases where I would recommend that an estate plan be started and updated as life changes. When is it too late? As an estate planning and elder law firm, we often help people who have received some sort of diagnosis of dementia or other physical condition that they know is going to cause them to decline, and the decline might not just be physical, it may also be their cognitive decline. You have to get your estate plan done before you lack legal capacity. What is lacking legal capacity? I'm not speaking from a medical term, I'm really talking to you as what do I see? When I'm meeting with a client and they have no ability to engage in a conversation with me, when their eyes aren't registering that they're understanding what I am saying, that usually indicates to me that it's too late. They lack legal capacity, and if they don't have any documents in place already, the likelihood is that there will be a court guardianship over them for the rest of their life. That's too late. That's completely avoidable. Sometimes people come in and they have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, and it may have been a recent diagnosis or a year or 2 years ago. If you're familiar with Alzheimer's at all, you know that that is a progressive disease, and it doesn't necessarily take away someone's ability to prepare their estate planning documents. They still may have adequate legal capacity to understand what's going on. Get those estate planning documents in place then. Don't wait any longer. So When is it too late? I gave you some examples about, progressive cognitive decline. There's also heart attacks and strokes, and if those leave the person with an inability to understand or communicate their understanding, at that point it might be too late. Frankly, estate planning is all about the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And people don't necessarily want to talk about that, and that's why, reaching out to an estate planning lawyer isn't necessarily what's first on people's minds to do. But it is important, and if you are healthy and active, and you want to stay that way, and you want to keep control of your life for the rest of your life, do an estate plan, because no matter what happens to you, at least you have the estate planning documents in place that protect you, protect your assets, and ensure that should you ever be incapable of making your own decisions, you've appointed somebody that you trust to make those decisions for you, and the court is not going to be involved with your business.